Charlie Andre Frederick, and I served in the Navy. Well, it was a tough decision. I actually thought about Air Force first, and then after talking to a few people, the ability to get more travel time out of the Navy and see more places. So I decided, I was actually in school here in Valencia, and I told the guys, you know what, I'm not going to make it. School is great, but all we're doing is just hanging out, and I'm not doing so well in this biology class, so I'm joining the military. Everybody laughed. I got up and actually went down and joined. My father served Army, and then left, and actually drafted by the Atlanta Falcons. Never got to play because of the military. After I left boot camp, they naturally send you to some schools and different places like that. First duty station was not of my choice. Went to school again after going to a couple other schools. Came back here and went to school right here in Orlando. And upon leaving school, I chose a ship, ironically called the USS Frederick. That was still being built, and ended up that not happening. The company commander comes in one day and says, "Who's going overseas other than Frederick and the Guard?" I'm like, "Frederick? I'm not going overseas. I'm going to Jacksonville, man. My family's from Orlando." That didn't happen. He made a choice. He said, I didn't want those orders, so I ended up in Okinawa, Japan. It was great. I played a lot of basketball, ended up coordinating sports for the Navy units right there, and so we did a lot of basketball and flag football and all those great things. Traveled to the mainland playing basketball, so it was great. Probably most of the time I worked about 14 days out of the month. A lot of time off. Okinawa, it was great duty on the Air Force Base Kadena. During that time, one of my jobs was signing a lot of message traffic. And the message came across my desk about that incident. We actually even got to see footage of one of the ships as it was firing broadside. It was shifting in the water about 100 yards, and it was a nightmare for a quartermaster, for a captain on board, because every time that ship fired, you have to reposition everything and get back on track. And so I got to reading that, and fortunate enough, even got to see some of the pictures of that incident, but far enough away from it where it did not affect us. Just the heartfelt thing from your comrades that were having to deal with it, firsthand. That day or that particular incident changed everything for us. From that, we start changing how we man the gates, how we put up the barricades. Everything changed from that point. No matter how well trained you are, no matter how prepared you think you are, you're never really prepared until the moment, until it happens. And so when you see something like that, everything shoots through your mind. Will it happen here? What is going to change? From this point. So of course, because we're all one unit, whether it's Navy, Air Force, Army, doesn't really matter. We're all in there together. So you feel for what they're having to face and what they're having to go through. Of course, the Navy was involved by putting all the ships out there, and even at one point leveling what we say was a mountain. It wasn't quite that much, but leveling the top so that we could fire and see better, shoot better, the whole thing. So it was heavy because you join the military, these things could happen, but you're not really ready for it until. It took a minute because we normally think that war, we think that, someone is going to just come over and attack us and we'll be able to retaliate and deal with it. But this was unprecedented. It was different. And so even your feelings towards it, who do you direct your anger to? Who do you go after? And so that's why it was a little different. And it took a moment for it to really register that this is really going down. It's much like 9/11. That day I was already out. I could not fathom that happening on our soil. So it was much like that. You had to really come to grips with, well, this is really going down. I even went and checked to see if I could, and I could go back, but not Navy. My actual job, I went in initially, something they call a quartermaster, which I understand now has changed or developed into some other ratings, which has to do with navigation. Really, not so much driving the ship, even though I did qualify as what they call a master helmsman, driving that thing alongside of another ship, which is really scary. But most of the time, just plotting charts, figuring out how long it's going to take us to get there. Yes, sir, Captain. Well, it's going to take this long. We need to do this speed. And then also, again, now that things have changed, celestial navigation. I know how to use that little weird instrument, bringing down the stars and the moon and the sun and all that, and plotting our way across the Atlantic or the Pacific, whichever we were on. So one of the highlights is just being able to see an Aegis cruiser, one of the most aggressive ships the Navy had at that time. Just seeing that ship travel top speed and watching the guns fire off of a ship like that. It's totally amazing. And to watch us launch, rockets from a platform like that. It's a ship that's capable of just incredible things. So just being out there at sea and watching those, being actually watching those maneuvers, it's incredible. Naples, Italy. We're speaking about terrorist attacks. Ironically, that particular day, the Achille Lauro, which has a whole nother story attached to it about a sailor being thrown off. Ironically, the Achille Lauro was in port that day. And we proceeded to do what we always do out in the economy, and was going to the Navy USO. We did not know, but we find out all this later on, that two vehicles placed in front of that building, of which I was standing right next to. Wherever you go over there, they always have little trinkets. They always have something to slow you down, to sell you, to entice you. And that particular day, ready to go and do what we do, standing there, bartering with a vendor, not knowing that less than 5 minutes later, the front of that building is engulfed in fire. I had time to walk inside, past the young lady from Ocala who did not make it because she was right there at the blast. I had time to wow. I reminisced about this so many times, but until this moment, really, I had time to walk inside the building and staying at a safe enough distance that the only injury I received was just like a shutter that was on the wall inside there, coming down and hitting me, striking me in the back of the head. But at that moment, earlier I talked about you never know, no matter how many times you have practiced, drilled, and rehearsed. You never know how you'll react until that moment happens. And so at that moment, I froze because you have to digest what really happened. And so I looked to a friend initially, and just as I gestured to him, the place is in flames. And it was a difficult moment because I did not know what to do for a minute or so. I don't know how long it was. There's a young lieutenant, I'll never forget him, was holding a young man's body off of a shirt. And he wanted me to take it over, and I couldn't. And then everything I trained for, everything I was prepared for kicked in. Now we have to maneuver and get people out of the building. At that point, I think I was an E5 at that time, and so I was in charge. So we got out of there, but very difficult moment, very difficult time that you can never get away from, because it's always going to be replayed. You're always going to, and it change even how you approach things. It change where you go, change where you sit, change how you think about things. It's a difficult time.
Yeah.
So many things have changed from when I went in to now. But I think it's probably one of the most exciting experiences you can have, because it shows you not just, some people need to just know how to grow up, how to be stronger, how to be more mature, how to work together. The military brings all that in. It brings people from all over the place to one unit, to where now you are forced to work together. I remember highlighting boot camp, pushing us into fire training. You've got to work together. One guy has to protect us with this shield of water. The other guy has to knock down the flames, and you've got to do it together. No matter what your background is, no matter where you came from, no matter how weak, how strong you are, it forces us to work together, which is just an amazing feeling, especially if you were only child, and now you're having to share something with people that you didn't know. I recommend that. I would think everyone should experience it, should try it. Even if you only go in for the 2 years or the 4 years or whatever the time, just for the experience. It means a lot, because I did not just sit on the sideline and judge or point fingers as to, well, they did this or why did they do that. I know firsthand why we did a lot of things. I know firsthand what it means to fight and defend your country. I was at not only a part of that terrorist attack, I was there inside going into, was it Kuwait or Lebanon or whoever we were, Gaddafi or whatever the guy was, that we were there and firing and defending. And it's just proud of it, because at the end of the day, it was good, and being able to say I served, being able to say that I was a part of it, I'll never let go of it. I would still do it all over again, even if I had the opportunity, because I remember one lieutenant who was an incredible guy. While I'm trying to figure things out with my scratch paper and using the paperwork that was given me, he says, "Give me the book, son. Just give me the book and a piece of scratch paper. I'll figure this thing out." That's how smart he was. He chose to fight for his country when he could have been a whatever he wanted to be. That says a lot. So it's not people who did not just have a choice. People who chose. I chose to defend our country. I chose to be a part of something that I saw others before me do. So I would highly recommend it. Before we judge, find out really what it's all about. Because there's so much information out there that's skewed. Oh, the military is bad. Oh, this is terrible. It isn't. It's not everything that people say. And you would not know that unless you were there. Can there be some kinks? Absolutely. There are kinks no matter where you go. There's bad seed no matter where you go. So we can't judge it based upon a few. We must judge it based upon the whole picture. not just the narrow picture. So I recommend it. I would never deter anyone from going. The Navy afforded me to be in so many different places. It's changed now. When I went in, we did what they call split tours. Those tours only lasted 18 months. In 18 months, you can see a lot, and you can keep experiencing a lot. One of the things that like the Army, you go to a base and you stay there for 4 years, 6 years, or whatever, not necessarily getting the experience. And then I love the water. Just being out there, I would go out there, and I didn't want anyone out there with me. Being in the nav part of it, I would go out on the bridge wing, especially if there was a moon out there, and not want to be bothered. It was the most peaceful and the best place, no matter what you went through that day, no matter how many drills we ran that day. That moment, that time was the best thing ever. I would not change it. I remember one transit going across the Atlantic, headed to the Mediterranean, on a frigate, one of the smaller ships, about 400 feet. The ship was almost like it was a submarine. I'm on the bridge. Almost half of everyone is down. I don't know how I weathered it and what kind of stomach I had to be able to endure all of that, but I was still going. Sending my guys down, they can't make it. He is no good to us. So watching that ship go up and down out of that water, that is scary. It is. What happens is every movie that you've ever watched is now being played in your head. The biggest thing that the military instilled in me, and that I still use today, is practice, drill, rehearse. Know that your terrain, and so that has shaped me. I can say out of the 14 years that I've been at Orange Beauty, I've never called in, never gone out sick, and so the military put that in me. And the guys know, matter of fact, when I shared with them that I was going to do this, I said, I'm going to be a few minutes late tomorrow. They're like, for real? You're never late. Take as long as you like. You need the day off? You want to come in at 3 o'clock? I'm like, what is wrong with you guys? You make me seem like I'm not wanted. So what I take from being in the military, it taught me to discipline myself. It taught me to have integrity. It taught me to, to be a stand-up guy. To be, if you say you're going to do something, do it. And so I engrafted that also into the auto business. One thing about me, you can depend on me. I think if we just take a knee for a moment, we'll get through all of this. It won't be as normal as it was. It may be a challenge for us to make some adjustments and change, but we can do it. We've done it before, we'll do it again.